YouTube Ozzico and the Goat House is back. Today we're ranking every NFL starting quarterback from worst to first, 32-1, based off the 2021 regular season, based off that alone. Halfway through the season, we did this video, did these rankings, and we'll see the changes. We'll take a look at where they rank now and where they were ranked halfway through the season for us here. So excited to do this. We're going to rank top 5 by position as well. That'll probably be next week. We have all kinds of playoff content, all kinds of off-season content on the channel. Check it out. Join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on, follow our Twitter. Link pinned in the comments for anything you need there. Here's our Twitter. Yeah, all pro teams announced. We were talking about them there, so that's definitely some interesting stuff. We got live updates on Twitter. We'll be talking during these playoff games, of course. So start at the bottom here. And some of these guys didn't get a whole lot of starts, some of them throughout this video. But Sam Darnold, who was ranked 30th in the middle of the year, finds himself at 32. Getting taken out, getting injured definitely didn't help his case, but his poor play is mainly what results down here. Just really couldn't get anything going downfield. There were some drives that would look pretty good, and they would get in the red zone, and they would all go downhill from there. Justin Fields ends up at 31. He was 29. Yeah, I think missing games, being in and out of the lineup kind of hurt him. I like the Steelers game from him. That Steelers primetime game, kind of in the middle of his starts, looked pretty damn good. You saw the flashes, the talent that Justin Fields has, some promise for the future. Other than that, though, it did feel like kind of over time, maybe being in and out every time I saw him, other than the Steelers game, it felt like he was getting worse, and we're definitely gonna put that on Matt Nagy, because that should not be the case, or that's the entire staff organization there will put that on. And you see kind of the flashes, though. What I didn't like was his ball security. He can't put the ball on the floor that easily, so he's got to hopefully take care of the ball a little better there. Zach Wilson goes from 32 to 30, so that's pretty solid. We see him get back in the lineup, and he was pretty solid, I thought. Starting to hit. Still got to work on kind of the layup throws, but starting to hit them more consistently, because he was missing those like crazy. Had kind of that wild playability, and they kind of, he kind of had less of the wild playability at the end of the year. They probably had him just relax, just make these simple throws. You don't have to play hero ball here, and I thought he did a solid job doing that. And I think more of the big playability will come with time. Let's get the basics down first. So I did like that. We saw some good running ability as well from Zach Wilson. So, he moved up 2 spots. That's pretty solid. Trevor Lawrence dropped, unfortunately, from 24 to 29. Yeah, some turnovers were in there. You wish, it's a little surprising the interception totals were that high. Games like the Patriots, Tennessee, the second time around, rough games in terms of the turnover total. I'm not too focused on that. It's obviously not a great thing. But what I didn't love from Trevor Lawrence was, he wasn't trying to make those tight window throws. He was kind of playing things safe. And when you play things safe, you better be a little careful with the ball. So I didn't like those things. I did like the way he played against the Colts at the end of the year. He definitely did show some flashes. I thought he was showing more of them the first half of the year. So if he can get back to playing better ball, who they hire as either their coach or their offensive coach will be a big piece of this, because you want to scheme some things open here so you can see his talent a little more. You can tell by the picture, he's cooking something up. Trevor's cooking something up here. Next group of guys, Taylor Heineke comes at 28. He was 27, so he dropped down a spot. Interesting, because after we did the halfway rankings, maybe the next few games as Washington was going on that little bit of a winning streak, he was probably climbing up the rankings. He was probably maybe on the next slide, climbing easily inside the top 25. He was playing some pretty decent ball. And then it kind of went downhill again. I thought Washington had better than expected protection for him in terms of the offensive line pass protection. And he kind of stepping into pressure, or kind of mainly leaving the pocket, kind of panicking a little bit too early, which resulted in some bad plays. Sometimes it resulted in some clutch plays, on 3rd and 4th down. But yeah, I wasn't really thrilled how they finished the season there. Daniel Jones, who missed some time at the end of the season, so he'll drop down. He started all right. A game like the Saints game, it looked pretty good, and then kind of was starting to go downhill. Then gets injured, and yeah, maybe it made it look like Daniel Jones is pretty decent based on what was going on, who was in. But at the end of the year, but those guys were just that bad, really. So Daniel Jones signs at 27. Jameis Winston was playing actually pretty good ball, but missed a lot of the season, but still ended up with the most starts for the Saints. with their mess. So we do rank him here, but he dropped down a bit. But it's a tough one to rank because he actually played pretty well, somewhat well, when he was in. But, he drops down because he missed a chunk of games there. Davis Mills, the third-round rookie from the Texans, go from 31 to 25. He was starting to play some pretty good ball there at the end. Very accurate, making correct reads. Again, the accuracy stands out because that's kind of what the other quarterback struggled on. He didn't turn the ball over in an alarming amount of time. So I was thrilled with Davis Mills. Was able to help the Texans kind of play better ball, put up fights there. So he ends up ranked 25 there. If he would have started the whole year, might be looking at a much better rank here, actually. So that's kind of what's holding him back a little bit. Next group of guys, Baker Mayfield dropped down 18 to 24. Yeah, playing hurt, probably legitimate excuse, I suppose. Getting beat up, more injuries. But at the end of the day, he still played pretty poorly on the second half of the year. Not too accurate at the ball, trying to force things in and end up forcing them to the defense, which resulted in the Browns, part of it, not making the playoffs there. Tua Tagovailoa ended up improving his stock from the first half of the year to the second half of the year, 20 to 23. He had some pretty good games in there. He didn't end the season on that strong of a note. They did beat the Patriots, but when they needed to clutch up. But he did improve himself in the second half of the year. Jared Goff, I thought, did as well, slightly, going from 25 to 22. He was a pretty accurate quarterback this year. Teddy Bridgewater dropped down a little bit, and the injuries kind of played a part. He's another guy that's pretty accurate. The ball just didn't really have that big play, that wow play ability that the Broncos are looking for there. So he comes in at 21. Next, Big Ben helped himself a little bit, 22 to 20. Mainly with those last couple games just kind of being, still wasn't overly productive. The last couple games, still didn't really have that big play downfield game, but kind of clutch at the end of those games. So I thought he helped himself a little bit. Jalen Hurts helped himself a tiny bit here, mainly with his running ability. Still a little inconsistent in his throwing, but he didn't really turn the ball over as much as you would expected, so he helped himself there. Russell Wilson drops from 12 to 18. He was injured right around kind of right before the last time we ranked and going in, and that played a part, but the production, especially for how many games Russell Wilson played, looks pretty good. But I think the last couple games kind of boosted that production a little bit, and I wasn't really thrilled with Russell Wilson this year. I think the reason the Seahawks were struggling, a lot of missed throws, injury was a legitimate excuse, even when he came back, and he came back a little too early. But yeah, a lot of missed throws on third downs, and a reason they were going to go on 3 and out there. Last 2 games looked pretty promising. They were already out of the playoffs by that point. Mac Jones, phenomenal rookie season, stays put at 17, based on from the halfway ranking there. He got his team in the playoffs there, so impressive for Mac Jones. Jimmy Garoppolo with a big boost, 26 to 16, wasn't playing overly well earlier in the year, and then went on a little bit of a stretch of playing very, very well. Even running the ball, especially in the red zone near the goal line, but a little more accurate on the throws. And big reason why the 49ers and the whole team was, but how they picked it up in the second half of the year, made the playoffs. Games like the Tennessee game, maybe you want to forget those ones, but overall, second half of the year, he really picked himself up, so finds himself in the top 16. Matt Ryan stayed put at 15, pretty similar season, first half, second half. Carson Wentz is kind of the same thing. He ended it in a disastrous way, I guess, but he did have some clutch moments throughout the second half of the year. Just not much different from the first half, the second half. There just ended out really disappointing. Lamar Jackson missing some games, resulted in him dropping a little bit. He was a little inconsistent in the passing when he was in a bit, but still a big-time player. Obviously, if he didn't miss some games, he would have been higher ranked, but he's at 13. Next group of guys, Ryan Tannehill helped himself, 16 to 12. I thought he was pretty clutch. No Derrick Henry. I seen him make a lot of tight window throws in the second half of the year, so he helped him improve his stock. He was trying to force things, some turnovers here and there, holding on the ball too long inside the pocket without getting outside the pocket. So I did think he played a little better last year, but he definitely played better, clutched up in the second half of the year to help his stock. Kirk Cousins was 10, now 11, so same area here. Interesting one, though, because Kirk Cousins was 10 last time we made the rankings, and then those next quite a few games, he was probably better than 10. He was kind of raising up. We even seen guys like Kurt Warner talking about, is Kirk Cousins in the MVP conversation, because super productive, big playability, and he wasn't turning the ball over at all. And then he kind of came back down to earth a little bit, still playing well, still kind of clutching up late in games. He ended the second half of the last game of the year, helped himself a bit too. Ends up at 11 though to end the year. But you love the production, the turnover to interception ratio at the end of the year there. Derek Carr ends up clutching up down the stretch of the season. That ends up, he was probably a guy that was probably, because he was 11. I mean, at the start of the year, he was probably top 5, easily top 5. Then we got to that halfway point, and he just dropped down to that 11 range, was kind of playing poorly. In the second half of the year, after we had that ranking, he's probably dropping down even further, but then boosted himself back up with some clutch play, some really good play there to help his team get into the playoffs. So he ended up being at 10. Matthew Stafford was a pretty wild ride as well, because he started off the year very strong. Halfway point, he was ranked 3. Then a couple games, maybe 2 games, where maybe he dropped himself from 3, but then he started to pick it up again, but then he started to go down again. A lot of turnovers, ends up leading the league in interceptions there. So, but he did have the big playability, the high production. So he drops from 3 to 9 with a lot of inconsistencies there during the year. You see kind of the roller coaster ride back and forth here with Matthew Stafford. Next group of guys, Kyler Murray. Yeah, he did drop a bit, 2 to 8. The injury definitely played a part. He missed some games more than I would expect him to. And then just when he did come back, he was a little, wasn't the same as what he was in the first half. The people game plan for him correctly, kind of just missing some throws in crucial moments, I suppose. Still playing at a pretty high level, though, but he definitely did drop himself, and then it resulted in him going from 2 to 8. Patrick Mahomes helped himself because the first half of the year was a little bit messy, and it was weird to see Patrick Mahomes ranked 13. Second half of the year played very, very well. He was still a little wild with this throw, a little inaccurate than we're used to with Patrick Mahomes. Was fortunate a lot, that he wasn't picked off more, but he did play a lot better in the second half of the year, resulted in him boosting up from 13 to 7. Dak definitely in the same range, played pretty consistent, pretty well there this year for the Cowboys. Big reason why they had one of the best offenses in football, obviously. So, yeah, he's right in that range where he was. Josh Allen was 8, was playing a little bit sloppy ball early in the first half, and then really picked it up, so he boosted up to 5. There's still a little where he plays, it's that Josh Allen ball. He tries to be the hero a little bit, and that's his game. That's what he's got to be. He's got to keep that identity, but maybe tries to force some things, does have that interception, that turnover. But did a really good job clutching up second half of the year, making the big-time plays, using his legs, too. I love that. Helping the Bills not only make the playoffs, which there was actually some worry at some point, but win the division as well. So he goes from 8 to 5. And then we see the big top 4 here. Justin Herbert goes from 6 to 4. A little bit of a roller coaster ride because he was 6, and then maybe he kind of dropped down a little bit after that, just a little bit from a couple games. Some teams were properly able to game plan for him, and he struggled a little bit, but then he really picked himself up again. I mean, even the way he ended the season with the Raiders game, I mean, just fantastic there for Justin Herbert, and he ends up at number 4, and unfortunately, his receivers led the league in drops with a whopping 38. He didn't have a lot of help. He did not have a lot of help. You would think he would have, but Keenan Allen was a pretty good player, pretty underwhelming, but just a lot of drops from a lot of those guys across the board. And offensive line was kind of hit or miss. At the end of the year, it struggled a little bit as well. So it really felt like Justin Herbert had to carry that team a lot. But I'm thrilled about the future with Justin Herbert. Definitely can make the debate that if you were starting a franchise today, that may just be the guy right there, because you just got to get him some help, man. He had to carry a lot. So he goes to number 4. Promising to see him at 4. Joe Burrow, kind of in that same category, Justin Herbert, the guy of the future, goes from 9 to 3, a hell of a year in the second half of the season. Clutches up, helps his team, makes the playoffs. It helps that he has some dangerous targets and a running back as well, but distributing the ball to those guys. What I liked is, people forget that the Bengals, because how many times he got sacked, he got hurt last year. Look at this year, the Bengals offense line's fixed. Not necessarily. It's definitely better. I think they're well coached, but under pressure a ton, got hit a ton. The way he was able to escape that, make some big-time plays, one of the best, maybe the best quarterback against the blitz, and just making the big-time, on-target, dead accurate throws in tough situations was the reason he's up to 3 and why he was in the MVP conversation. 1 and 2 is, it feels like 1A and 1B, I guess you could say, between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers, the one thing that split the difference, he's a little more careful with the ball, was very accurate. Took care of the ball. Put the team in a position where they just couldn't lose because he was able to not only take care of the ball, but make those big plays as well. The ball placement as good as ever. Tom Brady was as clutch as ever. I mean, ended the season pretty well. That Jets game, the second to last game of the year, clutch down the stretch. But you see Rodgers go from 4-1. Yeah, really early season, he was fantastic. Rodgers, he was doing his thing. It's just a little underwhelming in terms of the production. Maybe running the ball a little bit more. Maybe just underneath plays. They started the year, so maybe that's why he was 4, not maybe 1 or 2. I like the strategy, though. I like the strategy from the Packers. Make teams guess and keep teams guessing, and kind of unleash them, maybe not even fully, but unleash them in the second half of the year to secure the best team in football, that 1 seed. So Rodgers ends up at 1. That's my rankings from 32-1 based off this year. It's just based on what I watched. I watched a stupid amount of football this year like I do every year. It's just kind of based on that, and again, based on the season alone. We're gonna do it. We're gonna always do a top 100. Top 100 at the end of the year. I make my own top 100 list, but I wait till the playoff Super Bowl is done to do that. After I let that factor into mine. That's how I like to do it, because that's a big part of the biggest part of the season. So can't wait to do all these types of rankings. We got free agency videos, coach videos, trade videos probably coming. We have mock drafts up, more draft content. We have all kinds of playoff content on the channel. Check it out. Join us. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Much, much appreciated. There's links for recent videos and other important things going on here that's pinned in the comments. So check that out. Also, much appreciated. But that's going to do it. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.